top story tonight focuses on Monica Burns of Black Non-Believers and the most excellent speech she gave at the Ark Encounter Protest in Williamstown, Kentucky. Monica is the chapter founder and co-organizer of Black Non-Believers of Louisville and a member of Louisville Atheists and Freethinkers. Connecting with Black Non-Believers Incorporated, Monica began an affiliate chapter in 2015 to provide an accepting community for African Americans and others who are leaving or have left religion.
As I said, this protest is so important given the assault on church and state and separation happening across the nation. I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with Project Blitz yet. If you are not, go online and look through that. That's basically where evangelical Christians are writing packages to put together to give to legislators to help them with how to introduce bills such as the one that we just had passed by Governor Bevin to allow Bible literacy courses in our public schools. And just as the Ark Encounter, that is public school. It's publicly funded by us, and they're teaching, it's not being taught anthropologically, it's being taught as some form of American history. How they're doing that, I don't know. But Project Blitz is a threat to the separation of church and state. It's a threat to women. It's a threat to the LGBTQ community. It's a threat to the atheist community. And frankly, it's a threat to other Christians who don't hold the evangelical worldview. So, and it's the playbook that Governor Bevin used to introduce that very bill. And that's why we're seeing it all across the nation. But if you visit the Americans United website at au.org, you can see more information about Project Blitz. They've got a couple of videos you should see. We really have to start to stand up. In the way that we come out for this protest, we have got to stand up because they have money, the evangelical Christians. We've got to start to donate more to the ACLU, to Americans United, in order to have attorneys, to battle against these things. We all know the last time that we let Christian indoctrination wield its sword against people. It's not a world that any of us deserve to be in. And even now, we're born into this culture, or any culture. We're quickly taught a set of beliefs in order to be accepted in our communities. And our parents and peers teach us how to act in those communities and what to believe and how to be accepted in that world. And we typically become masters at circular reasoning with this, and we're blind to our own cognitive biases and personal prejudices. But we're very adept at spotting cognitive biases and personal prejudices in other people. So as atheists, we easily see how theists, especially biblical literalists, do the same thing, and how they take a conclusion and they seek ways to back into that conclusion when pressed. This is how we got Ken Ham's Ark Encounter, which is a monument to anti-intellectualism. But indoctrination is not simply religious. Indoctrination is cultural. So let's take a step back. I want to discuss the type of thinking that has allowed many of us to shake the indoctrination of religious fairy tales, like Eve being able to eat an apple that would have, kept us all. Hello. Woo! Who? Did she say? No, I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. So, but anyway, I said let's take a step back and let's take a look at how we were able to shape these religious fairy tales, such as Eve being able to eat an apple that would have made everyone mortal, men living in big fish, Noah's worldwide flood, and zombie saviors. First, we recognized that we harbored cognitive biases. We asked questions. Why do I believe this? We stepped back outside of our beliefs to observe neutrally. We considered what we thought we already knew, and we considered the sources that we got those thoughts from. We analyzed the information with an open mind, and we sought more information. We did research, we investigated the other side, and we analyzed that information. That's when I got really heavy into reading Dawkins, and I was watching YouTube videos and debates, But then once you realize, you change those views in light of that new information, and now we're out here protesting and we're communicating and implementing a change from using indoctrinated beliefs and advocating for critical thought and sound reasoning. So I'd like to ask you, outside of religion, how many unexamined indoctrinated beliefs are you still carrying around? When presented with stories and opinions from women that women do not have the same privileges as men, or that black people don't have the same privileges as white people in the United States, what is your belief? Have you recognized that you have cognitive biases and personal prejudices? Have you asked questions? Have you considered the sources that helped you formulate that belief? Have you sought to analyze new information or data outside of your current circle? If you have, then you've changed your beliefs in light of that, and you have new conclusions, and you're affecting change by being an ally. Being an ally is communicating and implementing change in marginalized communities. Critical thinking is deliberate, it's not instinctual, and it's not something you do 100% of the time. You have to decide to examine your current beliefs. Your beliefs matter to communities of people and determine how you will stand and how you will vote and what side of history you're going to be on. White supremacy, misogyny, homophobia, transphobia, how did you come to your current beliefs on those topics? If you haven't taken the 5 steps outlined, you may likely be basing your beliefs on indoctrinated views. The United States is a white supremacist nation. The United States is a misogynistic nation. The United States is an LGBTQ plus phobic nation. Transgender people, namely transgender women, more specifically black trans women, are assaulted and murdered at alarming rates, yet critical thinking and engaging with the data reveals that sex exists on a spectrum. Sexual orientation or sexuality exists on a spectrum. Gender, though socially constructed, also exists on a spectrum. Perhaps the indoctrinated belief of binary sex, binary sexuality, and binary gender deserve critical thought. I had a back and forth one time with a guy online, and he told me that the way that you know your gender is to look between your legs. He said it was simple biology. Now, I've never studied anatomy fully, but there's nothing simple about the human body, and having a simple-minded view of biology does not equate to biology being simple. If this is how you believe gender is understood, you are beyond a doubt using indoctrinated beliefs. You have not researched this, or you're deciding to ignore it, and you're no different than Ken Ham. You may as well just build a big wooden vulva and penis and place some placards around that say, "I don't know what I'm talking about," and charge admission. You know, you can call it the binary encounter. Critical thinking can be difficult. Adults are married to their beliefs. This is why critical thinking skills should be taught in school. Not as a separate subject, but in how to approach the data that's given in each subject. Unfortunately, Kentucky is leading the way in allowing Bible study classes in public schools. Though they are electives, at least 6 states, Florida, Indiana, Missouri, Missouri. That's what I heard. I was saying it wrong. My bad. North Dakota, Virginia, and West Virginia have introduced legislation this year pushing for public schools to offer Bible literacy classes. Now, in school, teaching facts is fine, but not teaching children how to engage with those facts is not. So, like, think back to when you were in high school. We were all taught that black people were slaves. We were taught that they were freed by Lincoln, and after the they were freed by Lincoln after the Civil War, and then enter Dr. King. So let's ask ourselves some questions. Since we've noticed that we have cognitive biases, let's move on to step 2. Where are the white people in that scenario? Where are the poor white people in that scenario? They were the majority. What was their role in white supremacy? The United States, as I said, is a white supremacist nation. But have you ever noticed how white supremacy is never considered a topic at all in schools? Ever notice how white supremacy is never considered a topic alongside the subjugation of black people? What went on in the lives of black people between the Civil War and the Civil Rights Movement matters. Why was there a Civil Rights Movement necessary 100 years later? If these topics had been critically thought about, what would this nation look like if your grandparents, parents, and you have been taught to engage with the information, to critically think about racism and its impact on not just black people, but its impact on white people? The government deliberately, systemically sought to destroy black lives through policies, policing, exclusion, and terrorism. When stories come across your newsfeed, don't use the indoctrination of a white supremacist society to determine what is happening in the lives of black people and other people of color. Recognize that you have biases and prejudices. Ask questions. Consider the sources that helped you formulate your beliefs. Seek and analyze new data from sources outside of your circle, and change your beliefs in light of new conclusions and affect change. Be an ally. Being an ally is communicating and implementing change in marginalized communities. It is not enough to be not racist. Effecting change is being anti-racist. It is difficult to not jump to the conclusions we currently hold, especially on topics that challenge our indoctrinated beliefs. But because your beliefs directly affect people, you owe it to yourself and to them to examine them each honestly, each time. Critical thinking is not easy. It isn't something you automatically do. It is a skill that you access. If you begin using this skill on the big subjects, things we're indoctrinated to believe, like race, sexuality, sex, gender, it won't get easier, but it'll become habitual. Your brain will always use mental shortcuts, accessing your biases and prejudices first. But with critical thinking skills in your back pocket, you'll more easily recognize when you've done that, and it will become habit to second-guess beliefs you've not examined but were indoctrinated to believe. Finally, stop pretending to know things about subjects, topics, and people you haven't studied or talked to. It's anti-intellectual and it's far from open-minded. Too many people hold bigoted views because they choose not to engage with the evidence. It is critical in the lives of minorities and marginalized communities, and quite frankly, it's critical to you that we question the indoctrinated beliefs of a society steeped in white supremacy, sexism, homophobia, and transphobia, so much so that it would elect Donald Trump to lead it. So question your beliefs. Thank you.
Well, that's about it. Thank you very much for joining us. Please stand by for our next episode featuring R and Ra. Don't forget to like and subscribe. If you really like what we're doing and would like to see more expeditions like this one, please consider becoming a patron. Thanks again, and we'll see you next time.